Meantime, as always, there are people who try to 50-50 the day, and a lot of Greens voters decided to march, of course, because they believe that any celebration today is, of course, wrong. You know the debate, you know my view. Interesting to note that apparently the number's slightly down on previous years. My guess would be that if there was a federal change of government, it would become, again, a catch cry for much of the left to get a little more fired up, but because they're in power right now and on the verge of potentially more power as a result of minority government, well, you know, maybe they sat this one out. Also, we know there's been a significant change at the moment in Australia when it comes to people's attitudes towards Australia Day. Now, amazingly, some of the people who decide to choose today or last night before today to make their point about the past and how they believe that it shapes our future, someone decided to rip the heads off the busts of two former Prime Ministers. This was in Ballarat. There's a bunch of statues with the faces of former Prime Ministers. The ones they attacked, Paul Keating and Kevin Rudd. Now, like or dislike their politics, and clearly I wouldn't have voted for either of them, these are two very strange people specifically to have gone after. Of course, Paul Keating. Anyone who's ever read the Redfern speech would suggest that I'd be surprised that he would be, of all of the figures there, the one to target. And Kevin Rudd, of course, when it came to the national apology. Which brings me to the real point I want to make here today. And it's not about the tens of thousands of people who march. It's about some of the people who are now associating themselves with the organisations that organise these things, or the people who are very happy to show themselves at times like this. Now, can I show you here some of, again, the protesting that took place today? I'm avoiding their terms, but there's one photo in particular. Now, take away the every little T-shirt, take away the Palestinian flags. Have a look at that one, which is abolish the date and abolish the state. You may have seen versions of this around, you know, down with the day and down with the colony. And this is interesting because the mask is slipping. For these people, they use things like a debate about a national day to attack something much bigger than the day on which we recognise Australia's past and we can recommit to its future. These are the hardest of hardcore leftists who have always wanted a revolution. This happens to be their way that they think they can get into the revolution. But it says everything that if they had the blank check, what happens? It's one thing to change a name of something, it's one thing to change a flag of something, but what do they mean? Do they mean the entire system of government will be replaced by only certain people being able to vote? Maybe no one votes at all. In the same criticism that is offered about European royal families, is it about bloodlines that somehow decide who is going to be in charge of our communities? Of course, they'll never say any of this because it's basically just the big generic that they are going against. And these are the people who, if they lived in Norway, would want a revolution in Norway. The people who lived in New Zealand who'd want a revolution in New Zealand. The people that are born here who want a revolution here. And again, there are thousands of people with a very, about 20% of the country, very legitimate position. Their position is opposite to the majority of the country, but the joy of free speech is they can have it. But when you're holding up abolish the state, the colony will fall. They're not talking about a republic. They're not talking about removing the word royal from the children's hospital. They're talking about something that is a revolution, one that I think that Australia will never want, let alone accept. But what starts with words may well end up as more aggressive actions. I hope that the institutions that are as committed to the incredible future of this country as recognising the difficulties of the past are very stern in dealing with these scenarios. But what if they're going to do is turn around and pull down the banners and stop saying things like Happy Australia Day as a way of trying to pretend that they can delay the revolution by a day? I've got some news for them. That's not going to work.